This tutorial focuses on the student assessment components of iNACOL standards for quality online courses. Section C, Student Assessment, contains 7 standards organized around 3 strands: evaluation strategies, feedback, and assessment resources and materials. 2 of these standards are only reviewed by CLearn Central. The first strand, evaluation strategies, contains 2 standards. Standard C1, Aligned Assessments, judges whether the course's assessments match the content being taught. The standard asks whether student evaluation strategies are consistent and are clearly stated. The consideration basically restates the standard and asks if the strategies are consistent with and aligned to the course goals and objectives. Publishers provide a URL or description advising where we may validate the standard. However, your experiences taking the assessments should provide you sufficient information regarding whether the assessments are aligned with the content being taught. The question you must answer is, are assessments matching the standards? Are they assessing what was taught? If so, the criteria is fully met. If you discover assessments that aren't aligned with the content, your partially met comment will be, some evaluation strategies are inconsistent with course goals. Standard C2, Appropriate Assessment Types, is a power standard. It asks that the course includes adequate and appropriate methods and procedures to assess students' mastery of the content. The first part of the consideration states that assessment types are matched to the level of knowledge being tested. Here we're looking for 2 things. First, that the assessment being used matches what is being assessed. So in an English language arts course that only uses multiple choice tests instead of writing to assess the writing standards would be poorly matched. We must stress that there's nothing wrong with multiple choice tests. Sometimes they're the best vehicle for the information being tested. Frequently you'll see them used for short formative assessments at the end of each lesson. However, if the multiple choice tests were used in situations where an online discussion, hands activity, or other assessment type would be more appropriate, or would provide better evidence that a student was proficient, then this standard may warrant a partially met comment. The second part of the consideration asks that learners demonstrate mastery in different ways. What this means is that we're looking for a variety of assessments within the course. While we don't specify how many types of assessments should be present, if you've seen a variety of assessments during the course, this standard is fully met. Your primary questions are, were assessment types matched to the level of knowledge being tested? Were there a variety of assessment types? If so, the standard is fully met. If there weren't, your partially met comment may be, limited assessment types are present. The next strand, feedback, contains 2 standards. Standard C3, Formative Assessments, is a power standard that asks 2 questions. First, the standard states if there were ongoing, varied, and frequent assessments, with frequency being the common key. Students should be assessed at least 3 times per unit, but most courses we've reviewed interspace daily formative assessments with medium and longer form assessments during and at the end of a unit. The consideration asks whether the course provides frequent and ongoing formative assessments to check for student understanding. The second question to answer is whether the formative assessments inform instruction. During your review, take a formative assessment and answer every question incorrectly. What happens? Does the course just move you to the next lesson, or does it remediate you based upon your performance? Courses that have a variety of assessments that inform instruction fully meet Standard C3. To assist you, publishers provide both a description and a URL or location. However, your experience with the course should prepare you to validate this standard. Power Standard C3 asks two questions. Are assessments frequent and varied? And do formative assessments inform instruction? If both are true, then C3 is fully met. If not, three potential partially met comments are: students could be more frequently assessed to assure they're prepared for the next lesson, or many formative assessments are self-graded. And lastly, formative assessments do not inform instruction. Power Standard C4, Awareness of Progress, simply asks if students are continuously aware of their progress. Publishers provide both a description and URL or location where you can verify this standard. The consideration asks if feedback tools and procedures are built into the course that allow students to self-monitor their academic progress. However, C4 is linked to standard C3. If C3 was fully met, C4 is probably met too. For that reason, there's no partially met comment for this criteria. The next strand, Assessment Resources and Materials, has three standards, one of which is verified by CLearn's reviewers. The remainder are verified by CLearn Central. Standard C5, Alternative Evaluations, addresses whether instructors have access to additional assessment materials. The standard states that the course provides instructors with the flexibility to assess students in a variety of ways. The consideration suggests several ways this standard may be met, including multiple versions of tests, test banks, and supplemental assessment resources that are available to the instructor. Publishers provide a URL or location where the alternative assessment resources may be found. The key to standard C5 is to determine whether there are any alternative or supplemental assessment materials. Using both your experiences taking the course and the publisher-supplied evidence, determine whether there were a variety of extra materials and methods. If there are, this standard is fully met. If not, your suggested partially met comment is: some assessment materials and methods are provided. This concludes the CLearn tutorial on Section C, Student Assessment.